Let's hear a portion of that.
Unfortunately, there's not been a lot of change in the forecasted track or intensity of Hurricane Ida since our last press conference yesterday afternoon. So we're still looking at a very strong Category 4 hurricane making landfall, likely in Terrebonne Parish, tomorrow afternoon or evening. Now, the forecasted landfall is for 7 p.m. What I want to make sure people understand is that's the point at which the leading edge of the eye wall will cross from the Gulf onto land. At that point in time, about half of the storm is already over land. So don't listen to that and think you have until 7 o'clock tomorrow evening, but before the storm itself is going to be over land. That is not so. The wind speed at landfall is projected to be sustained in the neighborhood of 140 miles per hour. This is a very strong storm. Ben Schott of the National Weather Service is not here today. He is in New Orleans. He is working extremely hard, but I do have some of the most recent slides to put up and share with you. One of the things that you're going to see is just about the entire state is under some type of warning or watch. And so everybody out there needs to be very careful. I don't want folks who are further inland to be caught off guard because there's a potential for 110 mile per hour sustained winds as far north as the Louisiana-Mississippi line, but also from Lafayette through Baton Rouge to New Orleans and all points south, including the river parishes. And I would point out that 110 mile per hour wind, that is Category 2 strength winds. So that's a Cat 2 hurricane there. And so while the storm will weaken after it makes landfall, it is such a strong storm at the outset that it's going to be extremely powerful as far north as Baton Rouge and even further. We expect storm surge of 10 to 15 feet between Morgan City and the mouth of the Mississippi River, from 7 to 11 feet from the mouth of the river to Ocean Springs, Mississippi. And so if you just look at that geography, the storm surge will impact St. Mary Parish, Terrebonne Parish, Lafourche Parish, Jefferson Parish the most. But there will be impacts well away from that, and certainly Plaquemines Parish and St. Bernard will be challenged with storm surge as well. 8 to 16 inches of rain with locally higher amounts possible. The higher amount could be 20 or more inches, and that's Sunday through Tuesday. And as a result, and by the way, there's a big confluence of all of these areas, but again, stretching from Lafayette through Baton Rouge over to New Orleans and points south, that's where they're expecting the heaviest rainfall. And you hate to make comparisons with other storms because every storm is different, but remember that last year with Laura, we had very strong winds extending through most of the state because of how strong it was and how large that storm was. But we're going to see something very similar with Hurricane Ida. With the rain amounts that I just mentioned, flash flooding is a very real concern, and this is a very large storm. One of the things the National Weather Service told us that from the center of the storm extending eastward, it could be up to 160 miles, and then another 120 or 130 miles over to the west. So you're looking at something that could be 300 miles long. River flooding is also possible, especially on the North Shore area. Now, we're catching a little bit of a break here because the rivers don't start off at flood stage, and we haven't had as much rainfall over the last couple of weeks as we had been experiencing earlier in the year. But it doesn't take many hours of rain that's falling at the rate that they're talking about before those rivers could be at flood stage. This will be one of the strongest hurricanes to hit anywhere in Louisiana since at least the 1850s. We can also tell you that your window of time is closing. It is rapidly closing. And just like we said yesterday, by the time you go to bed tonight, you need to be where you intend to ride the storm out. And you need to be as prepared as you can be. Because weather will start to deteriorate very quickly tomorrow. And by 8 a.m., we expect tropical storm force winds to start to move into the inland across southern Louisiana. And while you've been preparing, so has the state, so has local government, and we have certainly had assistance from our federal partners. And I'll just give you some updates from state agencies at this time. I can tell you that the Department of Transportation has waived the hours of service for truckers responding to Hurricane Ida. I've been watching the traffic cameras across the interstate systems of Louisiana for much of the day. And part of the good news is that many people are heeding the evacuation orders, both mandatory and voluntary evacuation orders, and they are evacuating. This is causing some areas with high congestion. We just ask people to be patient. This is going to be part of the process. Everyone can do themselves a little favor by checking with 511la.org, or you can go to the 511LA app for traffic information. Find out if roads are closed, if detours are in effect, and if alternate routes are needed. At the present time, we have 137 coach buses in place in Louisiana, spread from Lafayette across east towards the New Orleans area and multiple vehicle staging areas. The vast majority of these resources will be focused on southeast Louisiana. We also have 19 paratransit buses, and they have already been assisting in the evacuation of a number of nursing homes. We will have another 38 more coaches on hand by Monday. It is important to note that debris on the roadway and high water can occur at any time during the storm because of the impact of the wind and the floodwaters. DOTD crews may not be able to get to these locations to erect signs and barricades and provide warning before motorists experience these things. So please be mindful of this. Don't drive unless you have to once the weather gets bad. When there's water on the road and you're not 100% certain you know exactly how deep it is and what the current is, do not drive through it. Turn around. Don't drown. You should treat every downed power line as if it's live and deadly. The National Guard currently has 4,013 National Guard soldiers and airmen activated in support of emergency operations. We will get to more than 5,000 guardsmen available to respond to the storm. And in fact, the entirety of the Louisiana National Guard has been activated, and coordination for possible assistance with sister states for assets that we may not have or may not have enough of in Louisiana is ongoing. But just in terms of the National Guard, their search and rescue assets are staged currently across 14 parishes. They have 164 high water vehicles, 62 boats, and 34 helicopters ready to support and assist in search and rescue operations. 650 state, EMAC, and FEMA USAR personnel. Now, EMAC, that's when we request assistance from another state. FEMA is when we receive, obviously, search and rescue individuals directly from the federal government. And we have a total of 650 of these that will be in place by tonight. And the number of boats there, just with the Louisiana Fire Marshal's Office, for example, is 150 that are staged across South Louisiana. We have the potential to get to 900 such search and rescue people by Monday if needed. The Louisiana Sheriff's Association and Alcohol and Tobacco Control have also committed their personnel and assets to search and rescue efforts. The Fire Marshal's office is also working with 2 volunteer boat search and rescue organizations as well as state partners, including the National Guard and Wildlife and Fisheries. And Wildlife and Fisheries currently has 169 agents with trucks and boats prepared, staged, and ready for movement.
From WWL TV, this is continuing coverage of Hurricane Ida.